Hey guys, hi everyone. Today I'm here to talk about the Figma Extractify. What is this, what we're trying to develop here, and what are the main difference between this and what we have out there, in the world. The essence of this project right here is pretty much to translate what you have in your Figma files into code. And there's a lot of other options out there. You can even use AI, Claude, Cursor, Codex, or whatever to do the job for you. It will mostly do a job which is good and is getting better and better every day. But there are some issues there and a couple of questions that we're trying to solve here. So yeah, this is a plugin that will try to extract everything from your Figma and translate it into code. But the main difference here, and this is what we're trying to focus on and fix here, is that whenever we extract the code from Figma into Next.js, React, HTML, CSS, or whatever, it normally do the job, but it's not always the same. So if you ask Claude, for example, to build a website for you using that Figma file that you provided, and you ask it to use Next.js, Tailwind, and some other plugin out there, it will probably construct the page for you, ask some questions. Sometimes the result could be good, sometimes it could be bad, but it will do the job. But if you ask the exact same question for Claude again, even using like a Sonnet, Opus, or whatever, probably the results will be different. And that's what we're trying to fix here. As a front-end developer, one of the first things that we do when we start a project is build like this kind of foundation, and this foundation needs to have some kind of scalability. It has to pretty much follow some standards, follow some patterns, and that's what we do when we begin the project, and that's what we do when we're moving forward with the project. So those are the key concepts that we're trying to implement here. So how do we extract those informations from Figma, but how we do keep everything in a way that is scalable, repeatable, and in a way that is very, very usable and reusable for us in the future as developers, or even for the AI to use it in the future. So it's pretty much a bunch of MD files, a bunch of pattern, a bunch of rules, and everything else that translates our way of coding stuff, as front-end developers. So how do we start the project? What is the folder structure that we use? How do we approach a project when we begin with? Do we start the project extracting the colors, the grids, creating like the whole design system, or how do we do that stuff? So yeah, we pretty much translated that into the files. So let's start exploring the repository here so it don't get boring, and get to the fun part. But pretty much on this repository, as you guys can see, we have some folders right here. But I want you guys to focus only on those three main folders, which are the ones that matters the most here. So the first one is the boilerplate. The boilerplate, if you are a developer or if you know anything about development, you are pretty familiar with that, is nothing more than a set of frameworks or plugins or colors, pattern structures that you normally use to start a project. So instead of going there, installing Next every time, installing Tailwind every time, and configuring everything every time, you have this set of files that you can use to start the project. And it's pretty straightforward. If we analyze it here, we can see like the layout. For example, here we are using like the Next.js version 16 and Tailwind version 4 and some other plugins that I'm going to approach in a bit. But the layout is pretty simple. We only have like some things that we're loading here, and nothing that is really complicated. We can actually talk a bit more about this later. But if we go back to the beginning here, we also have this other folder called example file. Here we have just an Figma example that we have right here, and I'm going to show you guys later. but it's just so you can test the project yourself, with a Figma file in case you don't have any, And of course, the Figma Extractify itself, which is this set of commands that we have and that we're going to cover and approach there. Everything is described in this README file. I'm not going to pass through everything here, so feel free to look at your own time here, but those are the three folders that we're going to use. I've already cloned those to my desktop here, so as you guys can see, we have like this MCP test right here, and it's pretty much the files that we have on the repo here. I'm going to delete this example file here because we already have the Figma open, so we don't need it, and we also don't need these two files here, which is pretty much the README file. So we will end up with these two folders, the boilerplate and the Figma Extractify. When we built this project, the idea is that you can have like a stand-alone kind of thing here. So if you want only to download the boilerplate and use it for your future projects, you can do that. If you want to only download the Figma Extractify, install it in your own projects, you can do that. But there are some things that might not work as expected. But the idea here is that you will use these two folders to start a new project, and those work like they go hand in hand, they work very good with each other. So the idea is that when you start a new project, you start using this boilerplate and you start using this Figma Extractify, and that's what we're going to do here. So the first thing that we need to do is, of course, install this set of skills here in our computer. So I can just move this Figma Extractify folder inside this boilerplate, and I can open that on my cursor. I think I already have that open, but let's just go ahead and move it right here. You can use whatever IDE you want. I like to use Cursor, but if you want to use Claude directly, or VS Code or Windsurf or whatever, it will work on most of the IDEs that we have right now, if not all of them, But the first thing that we need to do is install everything on our computer. So I'm just going to open the terminal here, and I'm going to run like bash figma extractify /install.sh. So what we're doing here is pretty much we're going to navigate into this file here, and we're going to run the install.sh. This script right here, when I run it, it will do all the things that we need to do for the project to run, copy all the files to the correct place, and everything else. So when I hit enter, it will start the installer here. It will pretty much copy all the folders to the correct place. It will ask me if I want to install these other dependencies here. I will talk a bit more about those later in the process, but those are things that we're going to use to generate the components and make sure they are in the correct way. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and install everything in here. Once this is all installed, it will prompt me that everything was installed as it should right here. If there was like some errors, it will display it right here. But as you guys can see, everything was correctly installed, and it will tell me that we don't longer need the Figma Extractify folder, so we could delete the folder ourselves, or we can just type epsilon here and hit enter, and it will delete the folder for us. And now we're good. Now we're in a place to start working, And to start, before we do anything, let's just run this boilerplate and see what we have in here. So we normally just run an npm install just to install all the packages that we need to use this boilerplate, and just go the normal way, which is the npm run dev. Those commands that I just run here on the terminal, you can do them directly on Claude Code, for example, but Claude Code will consume tokens and everything else for things that you can do like pretty easily yourself, So that's pretty much the reason that we're doing here on the terminal. So let me just close it and open the localhost 3000, which is the main URL address for Next.js projects. So this that we have here is the boilerplate that I talked about that we normally start the project. And if we look at the package.json here, those are the dependencies that we have installed here by default on this project. So we have like JSEP, for example, we have Tailwind, we have FancyBox, we also have like Swiper. Those are things that, I don't know, maybe developing projects for 10 years. We saw that most of the websites use them, so that's why we have those dependencies right here, you know, because it's almost certain that we're going to need it at some point when we're building like websites, and if we don't need it, we can just remove them from here and we're good to go. With that being said, let's just go back to the boilerplate. So we have like a very simple structure here, and the way that we do things on the front-end side when we start a project is that we use the atomic design approach, which is start by making the atoms, you know, the smallest part of your project, like colors, typography, containers, and everything else, and you start to scale things up, like building smaller components and bigger components, then sections, and so on, you know. So that's how we normally do stuff, and that's the logic behind everything here. So we have like this assets kind of page here where we have like a basic typography, which we have like the H1, H2, a body, and a small classes here. Those are just like placeholders. We're not going to use them in our project, but it's just so you can have like a basic structure of how we're going to do things. So we have the size for desktop, for mobile, for each one of them, and also if we go to the color pages, we have like a basic structure for the colors right here. We do have Tailwind on the project, but normally when we start building a website, that website normally have the brand colors and some other things that are not from Tailwind, you know. You can get like the color from Tailwind, like the ones that they have the preset colors, very close to what you need, but when they don't have it, you need to use like the hexadecimal code or use the color directly there. So normally when we start the project, we build all the variables for the colors, for the fonts, and everything else. And that's why we have it there, you know. And if we look at that Figma file, it's nothing like a perfect Figma file or whatever, and that's not like the goal here, and that's actually a good thing, because this plugin that we're building, it works with different Figma files, you know. You don't have to have like a very pixel perfect structure here. You only need to have like the basics, and even if you don't, there's ways of doing that, you know. But for this example here, we're going to use like this Figma file that we provided, and this Figma file has this basic layers, you know, or frames or whatever. So it has like the colors that we're going to use on the page. It has all the typography family with the fonts that we're using, which is IBM Plex in this case, and all the different sizes. We have the container that we're using on our project, like the desktop and the mobile version. We have some icons, we have some buttons, and we have some form elements right here. This is a very simple design system. Again, it's nothing perfect, it's far from that, but it works for what we need, you know. And with that, we're going to use like these colors and all that to pretty much build this page. We only have the desktop version from this page, but what we have here is using the things that we have on the design system, which is the correct way of doing things, you know. So what we're going to do now is pretty much use AI to extract all these patterns here, place them in the correct folder in a correct way, in a way that we can reutilize in our projects later on, you know. And again, this is how we normally do things on the front end, and that's how we're going to do it right here. So I already have the boilerplate open here. It's already running locally on my machine. We can just open our agent here. For this example here, I'm going to do it on Cursor, but again, you can do that on Claude. So after you have everything installed, you can do it on Codex or whatever you want, you know. As long as you have access to the skills that you just installed, you should be good to go. And the skills that we have created, you can check them in the repo right here, the names for all of them, which is like the extract slash extractify dash something. And that's pretty much it. And that's how we're going to use it here. So if I type slash, I can see like all the skills and commands that I have right here. So we're going to use like the commands that we have created here, which is extractify dash. And we have access to all these commands. Each one of them is responsible for doing one thing, but the one that we want to focus on and the one that we're going to use to start a project is the setup. So let's just go ahead and click it and hit enter. And what this setup is going to do, pretty much before it does anything, it will run what we call the pre-flight, which is check if your computer, if you have all the necessary plugins and all the tools in order to run the project properly, you know, because we're going to need like the MCP server from Figma, we're going to need Node, we're going to need Playwright and all the other, and a bunch of other stuff, you know. So what it does here is pretty much this check for us to make sure if everything is correctly installed. If we don't have any of those things created, or if there was like an error here, for example, it will display this error message. It will say that, oh, your Figma MCP server failed and you don't enable it in your project. So go there, enable it, here are the instructions. After you've done that, run the setup again. So until you have everything in place, it will keep asking the user to fix everything, you know. Sometimes it will try to fix it for itself, you know, if there's something that the AI can do, but other things the user will need to do themselves, you know, like in this case that I just said, enable MCP server from Figma. And since we're talking about this is a good thing to say, and a good time to say as well. For this project, we do need, we are going to use like Figma in the local way. So you need to have the Figma app installed in your computer. It works with the remote server when you don't have like the Figma installed, and you can use it on a Google Chrome page, for example. They're like directly on the web, but there are some difference there. And the main thing that we're using the app version or the local version of the MCP is because we have access to some skills and some other commands that we can extract more details, you know, from Figma itself that we don't have on the remote MCP server. And one other thing to mention here is that we need to have dev mode available. You can, and in order to have dev mode, you need to have like a pay seat for Figma. So yeah, we technically don't need that, but when you don't have like the dev mode for Figma activated on a pro seat, we have like a very small number of tokens that we can use to communicate between the AI and Figma itself. So the moment that it starts to extract things there, you will run out of tokens very fast, you know. So once you have like the dev mode activated, this token limit is way high, you know, so you can use it, I won't say freely because it's not freely, but it's very difficult for you to reach that limit on a single project, you know. So yeah, with that being said, it's already activated here, so we can start doing things, you know. And the basic thing that it will do here, the AI will go through pretty much those steps that you're seeing right here. Let me just increase the font here a bit. But like I said, when we normally start a project, we start to build things from zero, and we start to pretty much set the base there, you know, extracting the colors, the typography, and everything else. And again, that's the mindset that we're implemented here. So the AI will first extract all the colors from your project. It will check for the typography, see what fonts you're using, what sizes. It will check for the containers and everything else. But the AI, up until today, it's not, how can I say that? It's not good enough in order to understand where everything is in our Figma. So you need to give some directions, you know. It's not smart enough to do that yet. So in order to do that, we use a YAML file which is called Figma Paths, and we can find it inside this folder here that's when the install created, which is underlined docs, and inside here we have this Figma Paths file, and this file, think of it as a map of your Figma file. So everything that you have there, where are your colors in your Figma file? Where is your typography? Where are the other elements of your project? Everything you're going to input there. There are two ways of doing this thing. You can go to the Figma file, copy the node's URLs yourself. So for example, right here I'm on dev mode. I can just select the typography here, for example, and I can just hit Command L, or I can just right click in here, and I can pretty much copy the link to the selection that I made. Both of them works, both method works, and I can just go here to the typography, I can paste it here and hit save. Or I can go to the setup, and the setup will ask me for the Figma file for the note there, for this link that we just copied here. So let's just do both so you guys can understand how this works. And the first one, it will, like I said, check for this Figma file, and it will check for the setup, and it will check for the colors. Since we don't have anything here, it will say, hey, you don't have a path there. Do you want to pass a path directly here, or do you want to skip this phase, or what do you want to do exactly? And this is the part where you talk to the AI directly, The way that we build all this is that you can pretty much almost talk to the AI like a wizard kind of thing. That's the installation that you go step by step, and you can review everything. And the reason that we're doing this is that we want the AI to be able to do the things themselves, but we all saw cases out there that the AI deleted the whole databases and other things like that. We don't have anything like that related in this project, but things can happen. So that is why it's important to always review what the AI is doing before you just go there, hits approve without seeing anything. So yeah, let's continue with the process here. Enough talking, I just copied the Figma link right here, and I'm for the colors in this case, I'm just going to hit enter and continue with the process. So what the AI is going to do right now, it will connect to the MCP server with Figma. It will go to this specific folder for the colors, and it will try to extract the colors from this Figma file. This might take a while, so I will just skip the video for the part where it is finished, with that. Okay, good. So it finished the extraction of the colors here. Let me just increase this a bit, and let's just go over through everything that the AI did. So the first thing that it did, it connected to the MCP server, like I said. It took a print screen, and it showed here for the user just to confirm that this screen, if that's the correct screen, and after that it pretty much extracted the colors. And remember that we didn't have before the link right here on the Figma paths. Once we pasted the Figma link there, the AI understood that, and it's pretty much saved that Figma link directly into the file for us. So in case we need it in the future, we don't need to go there, copy and pasting all the links again, you know. After that, it went to our theme.pcss file here, and included all the colors right here for the project. So it removed some of the colors that we have before, like the boilerplate colors, and it created some others. It created the pure white and the pure black, the red and the green colors. And if we go here on the Figma file, those are the 4 colors that we have right here: black, white, green and red. As you can see, we do have them here. And it also created, like, in the page, the color page for us, it pretty much recreated the file for us with all the new colors and everything else. So if we go back here into the localhost 3000, we can already see that we have all the 4 colors here, all the hexadecimal numbers here and letters, you know, and all the classes and everything else. So we can use this in our project because it's already following that structure that we talked about in the beginning, you know. So after it did all that, it just confirmed that everything was correctly done. It showed like a report for us to double check here with the step 1, the summary, you know, for all the colors that it extracted. And once that was done, it just prompted like the next step, you know, which is go through the typography. So changes are already in the repo. Do you want me to continue? Yes, apply to the code base. Or if you need like to do any kind of adjustments here, you just hit no, I want you to adjust that first before moving to the next step, or cancel anything. The good part about the AI right now is that you can easily chat with the AI and include some instructions there, you know, this is not correct, or include gray shade here, or anything else that you want to do, you know. So in our case, everything was correct. So let's just go to the second step, which is the typography. We select A and hit continue. And as you guys can see here, we did include it on Figma Path, the link for the typography there directly on Figma, you know. So it didn't ask us for the Figma file again, you know. It just went there, it saw that we had typography, and it pretty much run everything by itself, you know. So again, it's pretty much doing the same thing that it's doing for the colors. It will run through the file, extract the typography, and pretty much do everything else. So we're going to go through all those things right here, right now, for the grid, for the icons, for the buttons. We're going to skip some of them. For example, in this case here, I'm not going to do like any kind of icons, buttons, or form elements. We're going to leave that for later, so the video doesn't get like that big, you know. And I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the part where this first part of the extraction is completed, and then we can review this together. Right, so the AI finished doing everything in here, and we're just going to review everything together. But just so as you guys know, we went to the colors, the typography, and the grids, and the 3 others we skipped, which are like the icons, the buttons, and the 4 elements. So let's just go ahead and scroll this up a bit. The last one that we talked about were the typography. So it extracted all the colors, it created like all these different variations for us, H1, H2, H3, and so on, which are the same ones that we have right here on the Figma file. So it correctly extracted those for desktop and for mobile, and also the correct fonts for each one, because we do have different fonts for each one of them. We're using, like I said, IBM Plex, Serif, and Sans. So there are some key difference there. So it understood that and extracted it correctly, you know. One of the things that are good to mention here, it also knows if a font is a Google font or open kind of font, you know. and it understands that, and it will populate our layout directly with the next way of implementing the fonts. And if it is a Google font, it will automatically update and install that font for us. If it's using like a custom paid font that it doesn't have access, it will tell the user like a message. It will display a message there saying that this is a custom font and the user will need to input the font later. It will create all the variables and everything else and continue as it would, but there will be a note there saying something about that font, you know. Moving on for the next step, which was the implementation of the grid. We have two grids here. If we inspect Figma, we have the grid for desktop and a different grid for mobile with different sizes and different gutter gaps as well. So again, it took that screenshot, analyzed everything, and created this grid for us. As you guys can see right here, if we hit like Shift J, which is the same shortcut that we have on Figma, and if we open the DevTools right here, let's just inspect this file right here and see the base container. Let me just shrink that down. There we go. So when we move our mouse up on the base container, you can see right there on the top left side that we have like this 1344 pixels, which is the width of the container. And if we check it right here on Figma, that's what we have right here, you know, the 1344 pixels. So it took exactly that kind of measure with the correct gaps and everything else right here between the columns and all that. By default, we normally do this kind of 12 columns layout, but since this is all based on Tailwind, we can have like 10, 4, 2, 6, or whatever, how many colors columns we want, you know. And again, this is all responsive as well, so it took like this 4 kind of columns that we have right here on the mobile layout. Again, for the other steps, we just skipped. So if we go back here onto the cursor, this is like the summary of everything that it did, you know. Oh, I didn't show you guys the typography, but if we check it here on the localhost 3000, we can see everything that it extracted from Figma for us. So the H1, H2, H3, all the way up until the button text, which was the last one that we had right here, you know, the button. So yeah, everything is in place, and with that we pretty much concluded the extraction setup, the Extractify setup, which is pretty much doing like this first step when we begin a project. Right now, since we have like all these base files, all these colors, all these fonts and everything else, we can start building up our components, you know. And normally we do that, the React way of doing that is pretty much spreading things around, you know. You have a component for a button, you have a component for a banner section, you have another component for a news section, and so on, you know. So this is the exact approach that we're doing right here and that we're using here to create our components. And this goes hand in hand with this Figma paths YAML file that we have here. So if we scroll all the way down here, we have the components sections, and we already have like some example here on how to use this component. And let's just do this right now. So if we go back to the Figma file, since we extracted most of the stuff that we need, at least for this demonstration right here, let's just go to the page itself. And we can build like this whole page right here, but the correct way of doing things on the front end is building them by sections, you know. So we pretty much start to cutting things down. So I know that this is a header, I know that this is a breadcrumb, this is like another section, this is like a news kind of section. Inside this section I have this kind of component which has like an image, a category, a title, a text, and a link as well. So we do have components inside components, and this is the logic that we use when we're building the Figma file in the design, and this is the logic that we use when we're building things on the front end, and this is the logic that we're going to replicate in the AI as well. So again, the same thing. I want to build like this news section right here, for example. So I just go select the nodes that I want, hit Command L to copy the nodes, and this is the exact example that we already have here on our YOM file, but you can do whatever other sections that you want. So I know that this new section is going to have like this node right here, but I also know that I'm going to need some other components inside this section or this component that I'm going to create. And for example, this guy is the same, so we don't need to create them twice. We just create one component and we just replicate it and change the text and the image using props, which is the React kind of way. So I'm just going to go ahead, select this guy right here, which is, whoops, sorry, there, oh, there we go. Select this guy right here, which is like the news component that I want. Actually, that's that. There we go. So yeah, just hit Command L, and I'm just going to copy the link right here. So yeah, I'm going to build like, again, this component, this section component right here, this new section, and inside the section component, I'm going to build this other one. The logic that we have in the AI is the same logic that we use when we're building the front end ourselves. So we start by developing the children components, and then we go all the way up to the parent components, you know. So this is the logic that we're going to use right here. So I'm just going to save this file. And again, there are two ways of doing this thing. We have these commands right here, those things that we created here, and we have one called Extractify new components. And there are two ways that we can use this to build those new components right here. We can do it the way that we're doing before by pasting the Figma link directly in here, and we can even say to the AI, this is the parent component and this is the children component, and paste the two links. But since we already have that mapped and saved in this YOM file, we can just tell the AI to look at this file for this specific section right here, which is named like new sections. We can name wherever here, but for this example, it makes sense to pretty much grab a name that connects with the Figma file. So we have this new section, we can just paste it here, you know. So Extractify dash new dash component, new section, and hit enter. So the AI knows that it needs to go to this Figma paths.yom file directly. It will search for the new section, and it will pretty much grab everything inside there and try to build the components. Again, it will start by the children components and then scale the way up to the parent components. Again, I'm going just to skip this video to the end and we can review the process together. All right, so it completed everything here, and let's review the results together. As you guys can see, there's a lot of things going on here, and we're going to analyze everything in here from this point downward. But before, let's just take a quick look at what it did on the localhost here. It created those two new components, the news block and the news section, which is what we wanted, like the children and the parents. And if we analyze the children, that's what it created. It's pretty much a smaller component with a link, a category, an article title, article excerpt text, and the arrow there. It even included the arrow, which is nice. And let me just take a quick look here, and it's an image, and yeah, it's extracted like the SVG for the arrow, which is nice for us, and it even included in the correct folder, as you guys can see here, like SVG, UX, arrow, and all that. So it's inside the public folder following the best practices for Next.js and all that. And if we take a look at the news section, and let's compare that with Figma. Let me just zoom out here. So yeah, I would say it's pretty close, to what we need. Let's enable the grids. Let's enable here the grid as well. As you guys can see, it's I think it's a very, very good result. The font here seems to be like smaller difference, very, very small difference here and there, especially regarding the height of the weight of the font, but besides that, it's a very, very good result. And that's one thing that is worth mentioning here, because this AI solution is not perfect, especially depending on the model that you're using. Right now I'm using the auto mode for cursor, but I could use this with Sonnet, with even Opus. It would consume more tokens, but the result will probably be more precise. But again, here the main thing here is that it would create like a very, very good and scalable X structure. And let's actually analyze that. So as you guys can see, it extracted like the arrow here, the SVG. It created one page here, which is for the news block, one component in this case, another one page for the news block and one component for the news block, one just for the demo and another for the component itself. And probably, if we go here, another one for the news section. And let's just go through the news block component to see if it created correctly. Normally when we create a component, like I said, we create the component using props, so it is reusable in most of the cases here. And it created the interface with the props that it understood from what it read from Figma. So one of the things that is worth mentioning here again is that the more detail or the more information that you have on your Figma, or the better structure it is your Figma file, the better the AI could understand like all that information and translate that into code. So if you have like all your layers named in Figma with all the informations and all that, it's better. The AI will have much more context to translate that into code. But the basics are here. We have like the category, we have the title, the excerpt, the href, which is the link, and the image as well. So we've just populated that with some dummy information in case we don't have anything. And we're using like Tailwind in here, using like the components from Next directly, like the link and the image, which is great for us. And yeah, seems good. And if we check like on the news section, we can check here that that it imported the news block, the component it just created, and it reused it in this component right here. So it created like the whole interface for that, all the other props as well. It populated the component with the text and the informations that we want here, and everything else it built using this kind of Tailwind approach. So in sum, that's what the plugins and the commands that we're building on are capable of. Again, the main difference and our key difference here is building like this kind of scalable components that the AI can reuse for building other components, and always following the same pattern, the same kind of naming convention, the same kind of folder structure, and all that. We can pretty much populate our Figma paths.yam with a lot of other components and run through them again, but they're probably going to have like this same kind of structures and steps right here. One of the other things that is worth mentioning here when it's building the components and that we installed in the beginning of the project is the... I forgot the name now. It's the pixel math similarity, which we use the Playwright MCP server to do that. And we also use the Ally one to have like this kind of visual review. So, sorry. What it does in the background, it's pretty much after it builds like this kind of component for us, it will take a print screen of that screen, and it will compare to the Figma. And doing like this visual comparison, it will check if the font size is correct, if the spaces are correct, if the links are correct, and everything else, you know. Again, sometimes some things might not be really correct, because this is still a work in progress, and the AI sometimes does hallucinate from time to time. But with the rules that we have set, if it happens, it's normally just a small detail here and there. Again, it's worth mentioning here that we're building like simple components, so if you have like a crazy layout with a lot of overlays and things happening and animations going from here to there, it might not work as you expected, but we're always going to try to improve the solution even further to have like more contexts, more ways of doing things, like more tools to do the things like the right and the correct way, you know. But yeah, that's it. I also would like to cover like real quick all the other functions that we have, because we do have some other commands available right here for us to use, but those are not as important as the ones that we just covered right now. The one that we just covered is like the new component, which is pretty much what we're going to use throughout the whole project. You know, we can use that to extract all the components from Figma, and once everything is extracted, we just build the pages like almost a Lego block, you know, stacking the components and all that. The setup we just covered. The pre-flight, it's inside the setup, so whenever we run the setup, it will run the pre-flight before, because we need to make sure everything is there. But we also build it as a standalone command in case you just want to see if everything is correct before really running everything, you know. So that's why we have it here. And we also have these 4 other commands right here. The command called the discover is a command that instead of going from Figma to code, will go the other way, you know. So we'll use AI to analyze Figma, your Figma file, and pretty much see if the Figma file is done in the correct way, you know. This is a very early stage and still like a really work in progress here. But the idea here is that it will go through your Figma, go through all your layers, make sure your layers are named correctly and they make sense. It will check for all your pages if you have like a design system. If you don't have a design system, it will propose a design system for you, so you can pretty much grab all the paths that you have, all those pages that you have here on Figma. For example, if you didn't have like this kind of page with all the colors and fonts and everything else, you just grab all your pages from Figma, paste there, it will analyze everything, and it will build this page for us here with the colors, with the typography and everything else, in order for it to use to build the pages, and in order for you to have like very documented Figma file, you know, that you can increase building pages and etc., you know. Besides that, we also have these 2 commands, which is called the audit and the security audit. The audit, it's almost the same as the discover. It will do like this kind of audit on your Figma, making sure everything is correct and in place. And the security audit, it's more to the code part, you know. So it will run through your code and make sure you are following the best practices regarding security. So if you don't have like any kind of exposed tokens on your code, if you don't have like any kind of let's say using dangerously set inner HTML, which is a React property, without using Doom Purify in order to prevent hijacks or any other things, you know. So those are things that you can run separate on your project after everything is done. And we also have the Code Connect, which is very experimental at this point, but it will pretty much connect the code that you have right now, the components that the AI has built, with Figma itself. So once you update one, the other will be updated as well, and it can communicate, you know, having like the same props, the same functionalities and all that. Again, this part is very, very experimental right now. Sometimes it works, sometimes it has bugs, so we're still working our way through it. But that's the direction that we're going, trying to make this approach from Figma to code, and also from code to Figma, much more reliable and scalable and concise throughout the whole project. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it, guys. If you do have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, that's it. Talk to you soon.